So some of our activities, we can enjoy them for the sheer random enjoyment they give us. Some of our activities we actually have to complete. Language learning is more like Today I want to talk about randomness, complexity, and enjoyment when it comes to language learning. If you follow my channel, you'll know that I put a lot of emphasis on enjoying the process. And I also try to connect things that may seem unrelated to the process of learning a language. And the reason is that fundamentally, language learning success depends on our attitude. Even when I say it depends on the time we spend, of course, the time we spend with the language, listening, reading, speaking, it all is very much influenced by our attitude towards the process, towards the language, and so forth. So the attitude should be one of enjoyment. Now, how does this relate to randomness? And how did I get there? I have this feeling that so many things in life, if not all things in life, are in some way or other interconnected. And that brought me to this theory of complexity and randomness, which I discovered while learning Farsi or Persian, while listening to Parseh's podcast, where he talked about complex systems like an ant colony and the evolution of life itself, and how things influence other things, and gradually systems increase in their complexity as a result of how different elements of that system interact with each other, achieving a result that is quite unrelated to the characteristics of each individual element in that system, if you follow me. A little bit complicated. So I like the idea of randomness. For example, I was in my yard picking blackberries. I grabbed a few to take for breakfast the next day, but a lot of them I ate. While I eat them, I enjoy them. Later on, I put them in with my muesli and other berries, and I have that for breakfast with yogurt and milk. But then, before coming back to the house, I looked at my lawn, which had to be mowed. So if I just pick a few blackberries, I can enjoy those blackberries. That's like a random moment. Doesn't have to connect to next day's breakfast. But the lawn, if I'm going to cut the lawn with my push mower, then I have to finish the job. It's meaningless to just cut a small section of that lawn. Granted, the lawn is not very large. So some of our activities, we can enjoy them for the sheer random enjoyment they give us. Some of our activities we actually have to complete. Language learning is more like the former. And if we do enjoy the random reading and listening and doing things in the language, we will eventually achieve as much as we achieve. But we don't have to complete anything. It's not like cutting the lawn. Unless, of course, you're in a course where you have to pass a test. But even there, if your enjoyment is, I have to remember this, I have to nail this down, I have to finish mowing the lawn, you will be less successful, in my opinion, than if you accept the fact that things are random. Whatever we do in the language, listening, reading, recognizing a word, forgetting a word, every time that happens, we are changing ourselves. We are accumulating experience with the language. We may not be able to reproduce what we learned, but there is this effect of increasing complexity in our understanding of the language and in our ability to produce the language. And so I looked up this idea of complexity theory online, and there are a number of things that I thought were really relevant that I want to share with you. So the idea of complexity theory is that complex systems exhibit characteristics that are not evident in the individual components of that system, but the combined effect of the interaction of different elements of that system produce something new and different, more complex than the individual components. And what's more, the eventual evolution of the system cannot be predicted by the nature of the individual components of that system. So, with reference to language learning, how we interact with the language, what we remember, what we read, what we enjoy, the sounds, the pronunciation, all of these things are changing us and changing our interaction with the language, creating a more and more complete concept of the language and ability in the language in ways that we cannot predict based on that individual random act of interacting with the language. Now, a second aspect of complexity is self-organization. In other words, we cannot control or direct how these different elements will interact with each other and what direction they will take us. So there is a self-organization by acquiring words and phrases. Some we'll remember, some we won't remember. They will interact with each other. If certain words are connected with other words, there'll be a relationship there that'll help us remember it in ways that, again, we cannot predict, we cannot direct. So there's a self-organization element in complexity theory, which is very much similar to what happens in language learning. Now, the next characteristic of complexity is adaptation. So the system has to adapt to a changing environment, and this adaptation will change the nature of the system. And I see that, again, by a random engagement with the language, I am changing. It's like Heraclitus said, you cannot step in the same stream twice because the water is always flowing. So the important thing, therefore, is to engage with the language without necessarily understanding how that is going to change us. And even if it's a very small, random interaction with the language, very often, if I take the approach that interacting with the language is like mowing my lawn, so I have to complete it, then I say, well, I don't have much time. So then I won't do anything. So sometimes this obsession with completing it, I have to complete the book, I have to complete the lesson, I have to get it right, I don't have enough time, and then we end up spending less time. So if we're prepared to interact with the language whenever the opportunity arises, without worrying about how much time we have, whether we can complete it, whether we'll remember it, it might only be 5 minutes, but we'll do that, and all that is slowly changing our interaction with the language, our grasp of the language, in ways that we don't understand. Another part of complexity theory is non-linearity. In other words, we cannot expect that because we learned something, therefore we'll remember it and we'll gradually acquire more and more and we'll be better and better. I think with enough time, we do gradually improve, but not in a linear way. In other words, we can have fits and starts. We can have periods of time when we think we're learning very quickly, and at other times we seem to be forgetting a lot. So it's not a linear progression. It's more fits and starts. And even when I show you my chart of my activity at Link, you will see how it's not linear. I'll go through periods of greater activity, periods of lesser activity. People talk about the butterfly effect. Even the smallest encounter with the language, even a 5-minute encounter. For example, if I happen to speak Farsi with someone at the grocery store, the checkout clerk at the grocery store, it's a very small amount of time, but it changes my attitude towards the language. It might give me a bit of a boost of happiness or enjoyment or encouragement. I use certain words. Maybe I tried out a new expression and found out that it doesn't work, or I heard something from that person which changed my interaction with the language. The butterfly effect says even a small interaction like the flapping of the butterfly's wings can have a very large impact on the evolution of either a system or other circumstances or our ability to use the language. So why I'm saying all of this is because I believe you should fundamentally focus on enjoying the language, and you should accept the fact that even small interactions with the language can have significant effects as long as you keep doing it. And this is especially true if it contributes to your enjoyment of the language. So there you have it, a bit of a digression talking about randomness and complexity. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.